Shove a chicken wing down my throat. Yeah. I'm feeling, feeling rather ill. Somebody should shove a chicken wing down my throat here. I'm Big Baby. Somebody should shove a chicken wing down my throat here. Shove a chicken wing right down my throat here. I'm rather ill. In fact, I am extremely ill.
Cancel. Here we go. Okay. There we go. We'll just do it like that. All right. Fuck it.
Shove a chicken wing right down my throat here.
Okay. Oh yeah, let me we're gonna go back to Kino Dog Meat again here. Go back to Kino Dog Meat. I just want to finish this up. You know, if Crash Tag Team Racing is any fun, I might play it. It has a very Jak and Daxter look to it, and I like that. It has a very Hanna-Barbera wacky races feel to it that I like, referring to Crash Tag Team Racing. There's also Jak X Combat Racing too. There it is. Very hard to navigate in this. There are so many problems with this level. I'm a hard man! Forge Gang. Hard man. Come here, little bronchi. Where's the bull? Come here, little bronco. Fuck. I might switch to Streamlabs. Forge Gang. This is messed up. Let's do that. Hey, what's up, Ghost of Niccolo? How was your vacation? Let's go. Good, bro. Been to work. Something's not right with this Google Chrome browser. It's messing up my stream. Dude, my stream is crashing the fuck up. Good, bro. Been to... I got 4 more power stars left. Oh, dude, come on, man. Four more power stars. This is one of the weirdest levels in Mario history. Yoshi gang, let's go. Kino! I do this for the Kino. I do this in the name of Kino. What in the world? Alright, it's faster to do this first. There's 4 different stages to this level, which makes it very weird. It's so hard to swim in this. I don't know what they put in this water, but it's really hard to swim around in it. To where I can't even get an extra life. These coins, they go everywhere in this level, too. This is worser than Hazy Maze Cave. Dude, I would even dare argue that this is worser than Lethal Lava Land. Hey, what's up, Brucey? How is the stream, by the way? Is the stream going smoothly? It keeps telling me that it's like, glitching out. Give me those. This is worse than Jabu Jabu's belly. Fucking shit, dude. How am I supposed to play a stream and finish a game that I'm almost done with if the stream keeps crashing? It is smooth. It's smooth to me. It looks good. Oh yeah, I gotta get in there. There we go. Lags maybe every 5 to 10 minutes. Well, I could try Streamlabs. If it doesn't work on Streamlabs, then it's definitely an internet problem. Let's see if I can fix it. Alright, let's try this. You think it's just the angle of the monitor. Okay, we'll just try that then. Nah, don't. Sorry, it's on me. What? You're good. It's a lot smoother today. You're good. Yeah, I might go ahead and go to GTA 5. But OBS has the worst streaming stuff ever. Streamlabs and StreamYards are way better. And no, Streamlabs and StreamYards are not the same. The lag was on my end, Warhammer. Oh. So how was work, Ghost of Nick? How was the work schedule? This level just tricks you. The last stream was the first stream that I have not gotten any power stars. Okay. That's over with. Pretty busy, but I'm off for the weekend. About to go to bed. There's nothing over there that's worth getting. About to got bed. Forge Gang 1. 1. Not sure what you mean by that. There's only one Forge Gang, if that's what you mean, but whatever, dude. Yeah, I might have gotten the Power Star on the Rainbow, but I don't remember. Those are one of the things I hate the most about this game is those guys. They just throw you around. There we go. The Burrito Bandito. The Burrito Bandito. The Bean Bandito. The Beaner Bandito. The Burrito Bandero. Mexican wetback. Burrito Bandito. The Beano Bandito. I'm about to watch a premiere video about Australian Christian church leaders who started a movement and opposed the vaccination mandates. Want some background noise. Toxic Burrito. Ah, yeah. Yep. We figured out that Toxic Angel's a burrito, alright. He's a beaner. Toxic Angel's a beaner. A Californian beaner, bro. Why is he homophobic? What I don't understand is why is he homophobic when he has all of these tattoos? It looks like a gay man. Like, with the kind of tattoos that Toxic Angel has, he looks like he's been to a gay bar. So, like, why in the fuck is he a homophobe? He looks like he's been to a gay bar with those kind of tattoos. Burrito Bandito. Take that, fuckface. Take that, you fucking fuckface. Toxic needs to put the pipe down. I think he needs more than just that. I think he needs to stop drinking and stop smoking weed and taking meth. The guy needs to take the meth pipe down, but like he also needs to get some freaking sense. That guy is schizo as fuck. Seriously, that guy is really freaking schizoid. The evolution of the galaxies and the stars and the cosmos. And super sports monkey assortments, You know, all these monkey and apes that are running around wildly out here, running wildly out here in the cosmos. They're doing some serious motherfucking shit here, man. There's all these people with these green hairs and pink hairs that I want to shoot up on this level on VR chat. Oh, hey, Shaggy. You got some lore, man?
Yeah, I've got some lore.
Oh, well, let's hear it then. Let's hear it, Shaggy.
I've been to the hospital because I was not able to eat solid food for the entire week. And now I'm completely constipated and full of shit. Yeah.
Ah, I see. So you're basically saying that you're completely full of yourself.
Yes, I am.
Awesome, man. Fucking Kino. Exclusive. Fucking Kino. Dude, I just want to finish this up. I don't have that much left. Ah, fucking crap. It just wants to fuck you over, dude. And I have one life left, too. What the fuck? Queen Evelian. Queen Evelyn. You know, I might watch Neon Genesis Evangelion at some point just to see what it's about. Just to see why it's so constantly hyped up all the time. It only has like a very small but dedicated cult following. Very weird too. But over the decades, Evangelion has managed to get something of a following. But it doesn't seem to be that well known. I mean, I don't understand Neon Genesis Evangelion though. Like, supposedly it's a famous anime, but then it's also not well known, particularly among Gen Zers. I don't get it. I have been watching it, it's okay. The Australian Christian video, I would like to hear your take on it. Yeah, the video that you linked to Ghost of Nicolo. People like it because it goes into psychological topics. Hold on a second. People like it because it goes into psychological topics. But it seems pretty basic bitch tier psychology to me. It was groundbreaking for even broadcasting these subjects, though. Yeah, that's what I mean about Evangelion. I don't know too much about it. The animation style seems decent. It has kind of about the same animation as Sailor Moon. It kind of has almost the same animation style as Sailor Moon does. Which is why I don't think it looks really that great, personally. I don't see why people like it. I don't find it to be very interesting. It seems to delve into topics that children are not going to understand, and I would definitely say that it's for adults. It's definitely something that children should not watch, for sure. It's worth watching, though. Good animation. Great soundtrack. Yeah, a lot of 4chan fascists like Evangelion. Ryan Falk is a big fan of that. And he's like the homo-racialist guy on Cozy TV. He was really into that show. I think PPP was also deep into it because of its deep philosophical undertaking. I don't really think that cartoons really need to have that big of discussion on philosophy. I don't think it's necessary. It has a lot of references to Christianity and stuff. But it's not that deep. It's just Japanese people mixing up random Western concepts. That makes sense. Yeah, Gaijin, the Japanese call it Gaijin culture. The Japanese they call Western stuff Gaijin or Gaijin culture, which is to refer to the West. They refer to the Occident. In the way that we look at the Orient, they look at the Occident in the same way. As we look at Orientalism in the West, the Japanese have the same concept with the Occident, and they refer to it as Gaijin. So yeah, the Japanese have a lot of anime about Gaijin, Christian Western, or just secular Western Gaijin topics. They really love Germany for some reason. I don't know why, but there's a lot of themes about early 20th century Germany in anime. Some anime, not all of it, of course. But I don't know for sure, but I think anime takes a lot of influences from German television shows and movies. There's a lot of early 20th century German stuff that is in Japanese anime and other sources of Japanese media too. I don't know like all of the answers to that, but it's weird. Especially to Nazi esotericism, Christian mysticism, and other stuff. The Japanese like that, being that they're Buddhist. Being that the Japanese are Buddhists, they're really into that stuff. They're really into the whole Christian mysticism, medieval magic, Hermeticism stuff and topics, which they incorporate into their media, including anime. There's also a lot of Greek classical references in anime too, like Saint Seiya. That's an anime about ancient Greek mythology in general, about ancient Greek-related mythology and stuff. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is related to ancient Egyptian lore. Yu-Gi-Oh! For example, has a lot of themes that relate to ancient Egypt, ancient Egyptian cults, and the like. It's also very borderline pedo, of course, since it's anime. I wouldn't say that it's borderline pedo. That kind of stuff is normal in Japan. That stuff about underage girls or underage boys and stuff, that's actually quite normal in Japan. And when it's brought over here and it's given translations and dubs and stuff, they take a lot of that out. They take a lot of those references like sushi and sandals, interest in underage teen girls and stuff out of it, because they know it's going to creep people out. But in Japan, it's a very normal thing. Now, recently, the Japanese have been cleaning up a lot of their television. In the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of violence and sexual pornography in Japanese television, and now it's actually cleaner than American television, which is really bizarre. Yeah, I call them Westaboos, LOL. Pretty much so. The Japanese are just as every bit influenced by American culture as anybody else in the developed world. Like, during the occupation with the American GIs, the American GIs got a lot of Japanese women, and they brought them over here, and they were heavily influenced, and the Japanese got very into American fast food. In fact, there was a whole revolution in Japanese cuisine because of the importation of American fast food in American restaurants after the occupation of America over the Japanese Empire. Like, they started to eat a lot more red meat. They drank a lot more Western-style beers, which they started doing so even during the Meiji Restoration. But they only partially Westernized so much, which is to say that only the elites Westernized during the Meiji era. Most of the population did not necessarily fully Westernize until after World War II. It reminds me of a game series, Shin Megami Tensei. It reminds me of a game series, Shin Megami Tensei, where you can fight Lucifer and God and angels and demons, but nothing makes any sense. They're just using mythology as inspiration. Yeah, it's not to be taken serious. It's nothing to really be taken seriously. There's definitely some antichrist stuff there that's going on for sure. There's antichrist stuff, but again, it isn't really anything to be taken serious because they're not really actually believing it. They actually don't even really consider much of their own folklore and philosophy other than just what was brought to them passed down to them by their ancestors. Like how many Shinto priests or how many Buddhist monks literally believe everything that those texts say, and how much they actually consider and believe that stuff is very debatable. The Japanese are pretty atheistic, and so are the Chinese. They just retain the value of the ceremonies for cultural reasons, and it's kind of like in Catholic France, where the French are Catholic, culturally Catholic, but they don't really practice it, nor do they really care to. They're not like absolutely convinced Catholics in the sense, or like how Scandinavians are probably the most atheistic part of the world. Like, Scandinavia is probably the most atheistic place in the world, especially Sweden, but Denmark and Norway are exactly the same thing as Sweden. Sweden is just the most well known, but Denmark and Norway and Finland, they're the same way. Iceland is still a little bit Christian, kind of, but they're pretty much atheist at this point. Nothing about this level makes any sense. For example, the Goombas, they're smaller than the coins, but when they die, they turn into coins that are the same size ratio to Mario. They're the same symmetry or symmetrical size as Mario. I don't get that. Like, how can something as small as a Goomba like that produce something as massive or as big as has a gold coin relative to the size of Mario? And this is regardless of whether Mario is big or small on this level. The coins are always the same size, even though everything else on the level is different because of Mario's change. Okay, what is it? Mythology is inspiration. Mythology has inspiration. What else were you saying? There is implied relationships between adults and young teenagers in the show, even in the English dub. Yeah, that's probably the reason why a lot of people don't actually like Neon Genesis Evangelion, because of that. Because of pedophilic controversies like that. That's probably why it was never that popular outside of the small following it got. But it has a pretty sizable following of people that like that show. Okay, what is it you're saying? I won't spoil it. Every Japanese person is a Westaboo, if you think about it. They all dress like us. Well, pretty much everyone in the world dresses like Westerners. I mean, at this point, even Africans and Arabs dress like Western people, or they dress like Americans. So, it isn't necessarily that only the Japanese do it. They just dress modern. And there's a very lively Japanese fashion industry, especially around Tokyo, the Tokyo and Yokohama and Kyoto area. There's a very lively Japanese fashion industry. You probably didn't even know about it, but Japan is one of the most influential fashion industries in the world, along with France and Italy. They have one of the most influential fashion industries in the world. And also, Americans will dress up in Far Eastern and Japanese style clothing as well. There's a lot of modern Japanese fashion that has influenced American fashion female design as well, and you probably didn't know that. And of course, anime has had quite an impact on Gen Z culture. Like, at least 40 to 50% of Gen Zers have watched one form of anime. I mean, 57% of Gen Zers have at least seen some anime in their lifetime. Maybe they don't believe everything in the Buddhist and Shinto texts, but they are very superstitious. They believe in a lot of their folklore. The ghost stuff is very important in Japan. Like, there's lots of stories about ghost hauntings and other stuff in Japan that you probably did not know about, but they do believe in a lot of ghost stories and stuff in Japan. And China too. There was a murder in Japan where the killer buried his victim with her favorite VHS tape. Not because he pitied her, but because he didn't want her to haunt him as a ghost. Yeah, the Japanese are very superstitious. Not every Japanese person is like that, by the way, but a lot of them are. It's very interesting how all of these different cultures all have similar ghost stories. Like in Islam, they tend to say that it's jinn. For example, in Islam, they say that it's jinns. It's because it's actually two different levels in the game. That's why the coins are the same size at Forge Warhammer. I don't know. I think it's the same level, but the schematics is that it's two different versions of the same level. It's kind of like two different pocket dimensions or two parallel worlds. I know about Japanese fashion, lol. Yeah, I don't know why people think it's that great because it's so degenerate. So much of that is really freaking degenerate. And like in many ways they're actually more libtarded than we are. Like they actually take liberalism even more for granted than Americans do. And Americans have been exposed to it a lot longer than the Japanese have. So, it just really goes to show how successful they really turn Germany and Japan into cucked countries. Because Germany and Japan are really fucking cucked these days. Some of the worst disgraces in terms of cuckness. There's all sorts of... Hold on a second. There is all sorts There is all sorts of weird Japanese there's all sorts of weird Japanese genres of fashion. LOL. Yeah, they've got this entire fashion scene of gender neutrality, where boys can dress up like girls, and girls can dress up like tomboys, and there's a whole fashion genre of it in Tokyo. And it's like very popular for guys to dress up in girls' clothing or kind of mix it around to see if they can like find something novelty about it or whatever. Boys will dress up in girls' clothing, girls will dress up in boys' clothing, or they'll mix it up. And it's really very weird. They'll go to work in that manner and stuff, and it's just very bizarre. And then there's also like there's even furry style fashion in Japan. There are Japanese furries. And it's like there's an entire furry fashion industry, and then of course there's the anime stuff, Hakuni Matsuni or Hatsune Niku, and it's just really stupid, bro. Dumb, stupid thing. There's all sorts of Japanese genres of fashion. I've met girls who are into it. Yeah, and don't ever date those girls because they're total degenerates. I would never date a girl that's like into anime and stuff, even though I kind of like it myself because I know it's just freaking cringe, dude. Like, it's just childish to me. Like, grow up. Like, there's a time when you've got to grow up and quit going to that stupid crap. It's just stupid, bro. Even rap is better than anime in some regards. You gotta really say that rap is much more manly, and thug culture, rap music, and the pop and punk rock scenes are more masculine than anime and manga. By far, dude. But I will say that anime is less woke than a lot of Western comic books. So in that regards, anime is cucked, but anime is not woke. So it is a little bit more based in that regard. Okay, every millennial is a fan of Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, but they don't really invest too much into the lore. They're mostly into the Frieza, Saiyan, and Cell arcs. And maybe if they're dedicated enough, they'll watch all of Z, and maybe some of the movies, and that's about it. But there's a lot more action types of anime than just Dragon Ball Z. Like, Sailor Moon, regardless of what people say about it, is technically a shonen anime. It is not a seinen anime, it is a shonen anime. Which means it's an anime for boys and girls. I'm not going to say much of anything else about it, I'm just giving you the lowdown. Okay, hold on a second. In the code, there are 2 levels, but they just look like each other. Oh, okay, I see what you mean, yeah. Well, you would actually be right about that then. Yeah, the coding of the game, which is really not that complicated. It's very, very easy to crack the coding in this game. It's actually very easy to crack the game coding in the files of this because of how dated it is and how far like coding has advanced in the last couple of decades, to the point to where everyone has pretty much pirated Mario 64 or the earlier Mario games like Super Mario Bros. 3. Everyone has done pretty much whatever they wanted with it, and there's really nothing Nintendo can do about it. So it is the same level. I mean, I'm sorry, it is two different levels, but it's basically two different copies of the exact same level, even though for all intents and purposes it is basically two different worlds. But relative to the storytelling, it is the same world. It is the same level. There's only one level. It's kind of like the above ground and underground sections of like Super Mario Brothers. It's kind of like in Super Mario World, where, you know, you go underground to get extra stuff, and the main base level is like in the air or whatever, or like the treasure heavens or the treasure chest heavens or bonus heavens that you might find when you climb a vine or something and get an extra power up. It's basically kind of like that. But yeah, in terms of the game coding, it's two different levels. Yeah, Japan is cucked AF. I don't understand right-wingers who look up to it. I don't really either. Richard Spencer is a big fan of, like, trying to pass on Japan as a pure ethno-state, and it really isn't. A little bit more than 1% of Japanese are Muslim converts, for example. Like, 1% of the population are Muslims. Like, there's actually a pretty high relative density of Japanese that are converting to Islam. So I wouldn't call that an ethno-state. China's way more patriotic. Like, you have cases where Japanese students will wave the Japanese flag, and if they try to show any kind of patriotism to the Japanese flag, they're referred to as far right, which is very dangerous in Japan. Far-right extremist groups or neo-fascist types in Japan are not held in very high regard by the mainstream Japanese, even though they still publicly deny war crimes from the mid-20th century. There are splinter groups that support emperor worship and militarization and a stronger alliance with America, you know, and more active military participation in Asia, breaking Japan's post-war role as a peaceful country. And a lot of Japanese people don't like them. And of course, there's the Japanese left wing. Communism has a very large following in Japan, actually. Like in both Germany and Japan and Italy, there's actually a pretty sizable and respectable communist party in those countries. They have a very militaristic right wing, and then they have like a very active and very strong worker rights movement in the communist and socialist parties there. So they've got a lot of communists, and it tends to really not be noticed by outsiders, but there's quite a sizable communist party in Japan that really grew up in the post-war period. At least China cracked down on feminine boy bands. Yeah, at least they did that, bro. And that was based, by the way. Like, that was very based of the Chinese authorities to do that. To crack down on Western culture and influence and Western-derived feminism. And gender-neutral stereotypes.
the Chinese don't want that in their society. They don't want that Western derived and South Korean derived culture. A lot of those feminine boy bands originate in South Korea, actually. That's a culture that originated in South Korea and became very popular in China. And now, like in the last 5 years, Xi Jinping has cracked down on that. Grow up, he says as he plays Mario 64. Mario 64 is a very mature game. It's not like modern Mario or modern Nintendo games where you don't have to think very much or do too many difficult puzzles. If you've actually been through the puzzles of the original Zelda games, you're going to find out just how hard those Zelda puzzles were compared to the modern equivalents. You shouldn't compare Mario 64 to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is just an absolute and total LARP and utter joke of what a Zelda game was back in the day. You're mixing up Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey with Mario 64 there, buddy. This is a very hard man's game, especially Super Mario Bros. 3, which I think might be my favorite Mario game. Super Mario Bros. 3, dude, it is freaking badass, bro. Everybody needs to play Super Mario Bros. 3 on the original Nintendo. Okay, what are you saying there? They have a lot of Koreans that just change their names and assimilate. There's a lot of mixed issues between the Korean ethnic minority in Japan. They have completely pretty much lost their entire identity, basically. What in the world just happened? But Koreans have been in Japan since the Kofun Age. And they brought a lot of aspects of civilization, culture, and organized religion and statecraft to Japan by means of transporting Chinese and Buddhist culture and text to Japan. After all, it was Koreans and Chinese that brought Buddhism to Japan and Buddhist texts, which helped to really cultivate and create Japanese literature as we know it. But that's a story for another day. But most of the Koreans that live in Japan have been there since about 1910 to 1945. And then there's a lot of Koreans that came over in the 70s and the 80s during the Japanese economic miracle before the lost decade. But yeah, they have several million Koreans, but they're virtually indistinguishable from the Japanese, at least from a Western point of view. A lot of the Japanese far right do not like them and would like to kick them out of Japan and repatriate them to South Korea. Yeah, the Japanese ethno-state argument doesn't work anymore. Dude, there hasn't been a Japanese ethno-state since its defeat in World War II. The Japanese have been under pro-American puppet governments, dude. Japan is basically a puppet state of America. And also, most of their governments have been extremely liberal. Like, they're actually more liberal than America at this point. they're actually even more liberalist than Americans are, if that's even possible to say. They also hate themselves a lot, in a way. They also kind of actually hate themselves, but then they kind of don't want to confess their crimes or whatever that they committed in the war, and other stuff about their history. They also do not like the idea of Japan taking its civilization from China. There's a lot of controversy about that. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's like being a Nazi in Germany. Germany actually has a pretty sizable National Socialist group in Germany. They just go unnoticed. They're not really noticed because of how much Germany has apologized for the war and the Holocaust. But there are a pretty sizable amount of Nazis, and they kind of live like fundamentalist Mormons do. They sort of live a lot like Mormon fundamentalists and Christian identity types in America. And they have more or less the same beliefs. Wow, I did not know about the Japanese Communist Party. Wikipedia says it's one of the largest non-governing communist parties in the world. Oh yeah, bro. Yeah. I've known that for a pretty long time now about the Japanese Communist Party. It's very huge, very big, and it's quite influential. I think it was because of them that Japan actually has shorter work weeks. Japan has a very, very strong scheduled long-hour work shift for Japanese adults, and the salary is pretty low. You have to work a lot of hours for basic minimum wage, and there's a lot of issues in regards to an 8-hour work week, 8-hour day work week schedule and stuff, because they actually tend to work 9 to 10 to 11 hours in Japan just to earn bare minimum. There is Australian Nat socks that are basically aiming to build Mormon-like communities. Most Australians are actually British, or of British descent, right? Like, most Aussies are either Anglo or Irish. Which is interesting. America is the only English-speaking country whose majority is not ethnically British. It's usually some other kind of European group or European ethnicity. But we still have English as our official language. I have personally, I've never understood that. Got it. Yes, Anglo-Celtic is what an ethnic Australian is. We have Greek Nat socks too. Cool. Anglo-Celtic Hellenes. Doesn't Australia have a pretty sizable amount of Germans that went there as well? And Croats or Croatians? Like, I'm pretty sure that, like, every Commonwealth country has had a sizable number of German immigrants or Irish immigrants. But it's majoritively Anglo-Celtic. Dixie is the same way. The Dixies, or the South, is a lot of the same way. We have mostly, overwhelmingly, people of descent from the British Isles. with some sizable Irish and German descendants. I don't know about you guys in like your dealings with the Aboriginals, but in the South there's this thing called the Cherokee Princess myth. The Cherokee Princess myth. Michael Cushman wrote an article about it on Occidental Descent. And like there's this belief that any white people that have high cheekbones, they usually have a Cherokee princess in their family tree. And that just goes to demonstrate how very little 19th and 20th century immigration from Europe actually affected the southern states, because so much of it derived from the colonial period. Like, there's a lot of English and Scottish and Welsh names in the South that have been here since almost the 1600s, or the early 1700s, before the Revolutionary War. That's pretty common in the South, and it's very different from the rest of the United States. Only the Mormons in Utah have a similar longevity in terms of their staying in one place for a long time. Most Americans are extremely mobile, and tend to overwhelmingly not have that kind of memory of ethnic heritage. We have a decent amount of Germans too. So the Germans are kind of like the Greeks. They're kind of a lot like the Greek community in Australia then. And you have a lot of Kiwis too. You have New Zealanders that have immigrated to Australia as well. Like, Australia shares a lot of common history and ties with New Zealand. I consider people with German heritage Australian if they have interbred at least 3 generations ago. So most of your Germans only arrived like after the World Wars. Like, most of the Germans in Australia, they came over after the World Wars, like the Greeks did. Most of the Germans that settled in the Midwest, for example, and kind of like in Iowa, Nebraska, Utah, and Minnesota, they came over around the 1848 Revolution. And they immigrated from that time to World War I, usually. So the Midwest is the most heavily German part of the United States, along with the Prairie States. The Prairie States, Pennsylvania, the Upper Midwest, is the most German part of America, and it's usually known as the American breadbasket. Southern states don't have many German immigrants or other European immigrants. There's some sizable Irish, but they really did not replace the colonial population. They just simply assimilated into it. But the South is very unique in not having almost any German ancestry. We had a significant German population before the war. We even had Nazi parties in Australian SS. In America, there was the German-American Bund. First, there was the Friends of the New Germany, and it was changed into the German-American Bund. But they were only active among German Americans. They did not interact with other white Americans, but they were pretty influential in New York, of all places, in Chicago, and especially Milwaukee. I think they had their headquarters in Milwaukee or New York. But yeah, Brooklyn, New York, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. A lot of those areas were centers of the German American Bund Party, and it was controlled by Fritz Kuhn, who was a post World War I German immigrant to America. He was interned by Roosevelt in the war. He was actually interned in a POW camp when America entered World War II. Yes, I think it was the same here too. They managed the German-Australian community. How do you do that fucking jump? There's a type of flip that you can actually do, or that Mario can do, but it's very hard to do. The final levels of Mario are not as great as the earlier levels. Like, I really enjoyed Jolly Roger Bay. I kind of like this too, but it's not the same thing. It feels like it was rushed to get it in time for the sales of the year when the video game sales would come out. Quest 64 was actually the first RPG on the Nintendo 64, and it was released in early 1995. I always wondered how well the Nintendo 64 actually measured out with rivaling the PlayStation, the Sony PlayStation, which we now know as the PlayStation 1, but it was just called the Sony PlayStation back then, and what was the other one called? The Sega Saturn. The Sega Saturn had a very brief but pretty impactful life. It had the first 3D Sonic the Hedgehog game, and then after that, Sega stopped using game consoles. Black nigger. Whatever happened to Kyle Hunt? Didn't Surfer say that he knew him, Kyle Hunt? Like, I wonder what happened to him. He's a big freaking pagan and he's kind of mentally unstable, but I don't know if you know who Kyle Hunt is, man. I'll take you that. I don't know Kyle Hunt. You probably know his female constituent friend. I don't know who that is, but I forgot her name, but you might know like his wife or whatever that he was going out with, but I think he ran the what was it called, dude? I can't remember this stuff. He ran a website called The Daily Stormer. I don't know if you know that one. Kino Corner is live. What's up, Thievius Slick? Forge Gang! Let's go! Who watches the Kino Corner? I don't know. We'll take a look and see what he's up to. Fuck it. Oh. Who cares about this? My browser is fucking crashing on me. There it is. No. No, I don't give a shit about that. Reviewing cooking with Smortsky. What the fucking hell, dude?
Who familiar with a little bit of Molly?
The Crying World. Yeah, this is the same shit as with Drunken Surfer. It's just the same shit with Drunken Surfer. They constantly obsess about PPP. Research the Georgia Guidestones, bro. They're censoring them big time. Warhammer Reactions 8 Kino! Kino Corner has never had Kino. Let's see here. I'm tired of Mario 64, bro. I've just about had it, bro. My browser is messing up and I cannot find your link, Brucey. Oh, there it is. Okay, let's see what Brucey has.
A congregational church. They could get a religious exemption.
The Cauldron Pool Show, episode 31, the Ezekiel Declaration.